16th day of the month of January, and of course the year looks very promising. It is still very young. There's still so much we can achieve in this new year. And how are you all doing today? I'm doing very well, and I am Dorcon Rimdan.
And of course, my name is Mono Balagbobo. So glad to have you with us on the show today. We've got a great package for you. News, information, from politics to governance to entertainment. We'll be starting off our show today with our tips for today. And today we'll be looking at 10 simple ways to overcome depression and sadness. We've all had our share of depression and sadness, and it's a big challenge for a lot of people because people deal with, confusion in their minds. What people say about them, it gets them depressed. When people are, just overly critical of someone, it could just push them into depression. And if you've been having challenges with that, we've got you covered on this morning edition of our tips.
Of course, it might not be personal, and as a nation right now, we all know that to an extent, we have experienced sadness as a nation. And so the tips this morning should help each and every one of us. And from our tips, of course, we'll be bringing you the weather forecast. Remember, that's one segment that we like to use to bring you insights on the weather for today around Nigeria.
And immediately after that, we'll be looking at some of the top headlines coming from our national dailies, ranging from The Punch, Vanguard, The Nation. You can name it, whatever paper it is. We'll be looking at some of the big stories from those papers so you can have an idea of what's actually happening in Nigeria.
And of course, from the big stories, we'll be bringing you details of those stories. We're bringing you headlines first, and then the bright morning news comes just to give you updated with what's happening in Nigeria.
And then to the segment where we like to dissect the big stories, analyze them, ask questions. Some of them, we don't really have the answers to the questions. We just have to wait for the story to develop, and then we begin to bring you details on that. But that will be on our variety segment where we look at some of the big stories from yesterday and some that probably broke in this morning, hopefully. And we get to just look at all of that and just try to make sense of it all. Yesterday, since the beginning of the year, it's been Benway on the spotlight, and a lot of efforts being put in place. He was recently with the presidency with his team to look at what's been done so far, and I mean really a lot happening in the country as we start the year 2018.
And a whole lot happening. Of course, we have to pick one of the most trending issues in Nigeria, and that is what we do on the national discourse. We like to also critically analyze a particular issue in the country. And not to forget that yesterday was actually Armed Forces Remembrance Day. We were appreciating our Nigerian Army, the Navy, the police, the whole
Air Force.
And the Air Force. Thanks for reminding me on that one. It's very important that we show our appreciation to these people, and of course their families. They've done a lot of sacrificial service to each and every one of us in Nigeria.
We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we'll delve into how to overcome sadness and depression. Stay with us.
Welcome back. It is still the Bright Morning Show. Are you on your way to work? Are you preparing for school, your kids for school, or even you getting ready to go to school? Are you already at the office? Well, this is the morning show that you want to stay tuned in because we have so much to keep you informed. Okay, we'll be starting with our tips for the day segment, and we're bringing you 10 tips on how to overcome depression and sadness. There has been a whole lot happening in our country, Nigeria, and so we want to ensure that we're all happy people, even amidst all of this.
Of course. All right, let's look at number one. Talks about practice mindfulness. This is a very great tip. Sometimes it's good to understand how the brain works, because if you don't understand how the brain works, your mind is going to drift into things. You start thinking of things you never thought you would even think of. You're like, how did I get there? But you have to practice mindfulness. Now, this says a depressed mind tends to mull over all that is wrong and worries unnecessarily about all the negative possibilities that may emerge in the future. This negative thought cycle reinforces mystery and is not helpful in managing to overcome depression. Mindfulness involves focusing on the present moment and is a skill that needs to be practiced. You can't just have your mind drifting away all the
Yeah.
time. You really have to be focused on what exactly is needful. You find people thinking, allowing their mind to wander into how they are being treated in the workplace, getting all of that frustration into their system. And you're like, no, away with all that negativity. You've
Yeah.
got to focus on what it is I stand for, what it is I believe in. But some people just allow their mind. So when you practice mindfulness, it's all about being conscious of your mind, knowing
what you're
that
thinking
what
of.
you're thinking, because it's very important, because whatever goes into your heart, it goes into your habits, your character,
Yeah.
affects your life in general. So you can't just allow your mind to just keep wandering over thoughts and imaginations and things that are so full of the negatives. You understand? Yesterday I was, talking to someone, and he was so negative with his comments about life in general. After I was done talking to him, I was like, dear God, please purge me from all this negative, because
Taking it
I was
into
depressed.
your mind, yes.
It could lead to depression,
Yes,
and
it's
a lot
contagious.
of people, and that's, the money is not their problem. Depression is, what people think about how they,
the people you
yes,
associate
how they
with.
do what it is they do. They're just so, not so focused, and it's very good to practice mindfulness.
Absolutely. And speaking of mindfulness, you also must be aware of the kind of music you listen to. And it's important that you listen to upbeat music. And that is our second tip. You must be able to tune into some kind of music. Music has this way, they call it medicine for the soul. It has this way of just soothing your, how you're feeling. It has a soothing relief depending on what you're thinking about. Like that lady who looks very excited listening
Some
to
upbeat music that gets you grooving.
And sometimes you might not even know that you're having a great time. You might just notice your feet, it has this tapping movement.
Stomping to the beat.
Or you might just be moving your head to one side. But basically, you should listen to upbeat music. So listening to upbeat music, happy music, alters brain chemistry and can improve your mood. And this happens for me personally. Sometimes I feel very sad about a situation. I've tried to talk myself out of it, and it's not working. I just tune into some music and I have a great time.
Of course. Our next tip talks about connecting with friends. This is very important. No man is an island.
Nah.
And as a bachelor, most times, after closing from work, you are trying to okay, it's just me in my house. Where do I go to from here? And I remember yesterday I just packed all my things and went to a friend's house. I'm like,
Okay.
There's no way I'm going to stay alone. So if I don't have a friend to connect with, I'm going to allow things that are happening in my life to get to my head. But sometimes one of the easiest ways to flush that out of your system is actually connecting with friends, like those jolly people on your screen right now, looking all happy.
Yeah.
Well, if they were by themselves, they will probably not be smiling and looking so gay with, their friends. And, it's just all about having that fun side to life.
Yes.
Life is always going to bring you challenges. Life is always going to bring problems. But how you handle that is key to actually living life to the full. And I think every Nigerian deserves that in the midst of this crisis, to live your life to the full.
Of course, you want to live your life to the fullest. And how can you connect with friends if you're still keeping malice with friends? Which takes us to our number 4 point. You must forgive others. Holding grudges has this way of just putting a weight on your mind, on your feelings. And it reminds me of a story that a teacher shared with her pupils. And she told each of them to actually put tomatoes in their bags and walk around with it round, as in for days they should keep moving around with the tomatoes in their bags. And she said, how did it smell after 3-4 days? And they kept complaining it was an awful smell. And she said, that's how carrying grudges is. You keep piling it up in your bag, and before you know it, you're polluting your mind, you're polluting your emotions, and you won't be able to connect effectively with people. So when we hold a grudge, we are the ones that feel the anger, and that is so true, because the other person isn't even aware, that may not be aware that you're holding a grudge against them. So don't allow others to have this power over you. They may have caused you grief in the past. Try not to allow the grief to continue if it only affects you and not them. So find a way to forgive. They are not worthy of your time. Lighten the emotional load, and you will improve your mood and help you overcome depression.
How lovely that is. All right, we're looking at the next tip, and that's our fifth tip, talks about stop the negative talk. Dorothy, have you found people who are so used to talking themselves down, and you're wondering
Definitely.
what is wrong with
I think
this
they're
man?
everywhere.
You know, I was talking with someone yesterday, you know, and he was busy saying, you know, everything in this country is bad. I don't understand. The government is not doing anything. Oh God!
You want to
it's
hear
better I
people
travel
like
outside
that?
the country and get, you know, everything is just exhausted. Ah, man, how will man even survive in this country? Ah, God
Yes.
will help us. So this country is jaga jaga. Everything is not working. Ah, and you're just asking yourself, can you please just stop with all
Stop
this drama?
already.
It's way too much because you're
Yeah.
sinking yourself, you know, with so many negativity. And, you know, that alone can cause depression
Yeah.
and sadness. You know, when you're focusing on the bad, you're
I not
refusing to
feel
see the
good.
light at the end of the tunnel. I was talking with someone, I was like, see, you know, life is going to hand us a lot of challenges, but it's always good to see the future. You understand? And, you know, there's something called endurance and hope. If you're looking at everything that is bad right now, you can't see the future. But you know, and that's what I think people, maybe you're listening at home and you're so full of negativity, you talk yourself down. I'm not intelligent, I'm not beautiful, I don't even think that I can do this. I remember back in secondary school,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, he tries to speak English that we don't even understand. But hello, today I'm on a national TV show. You understand? By the grace of God. But if I listen to my friends that, oh, why is it that Mono always tries to do the extra as if he's not Nigerian? You understand? But you know,
Right,
all
that
those
you call it
negativity,
as a
if you
stepping
dwell on it, if you're depressed, you can't go up. Simple. And I think I've done justice to that particular tip.
Well said, well said. All right, we'll go on a short break here, and on our return, we'll bring you 5 more tips on how to battle depression and sadness. We'll be right back.
Glad to have you back from that short break. If you just joined us, we are on the tips for today, sharing helpful tips to help you overcome depression and sadness. What a time we live in Nigeria today, Dorcan, with so many negativity of insecurity, corruption. Yesterday we were looking about $44 million gone missing from the vault in NIA. And so many issues. If you want to think about it, you just like, you know, I was discussing with our news editor this morning, Magdalene Michael, and we're just talking about, you know, Nigeria life in general. And by the time I was done, I was like, okay, now away with all this negativity. I've got a show to do. I can't go up
feeling
to
that
come
way.
to the
And
show
it's very
feeling depressed.
easy. It's very easy to just get yourself in that mood and stay in that mood. So it needs your conscious efforts to take you out of that. And I like that you actually said you stopped it immediately.
I had to stop.
I can't have you in that mood because it would also affect
Because
me.
I can't come and just be looking so moody on the show today. I mean, that's not going to help anybody. People are looking up to you to like give them a boost for today. And that leads us to the 6th point, which talks about exercising. You've got to work your body. You've got to ensure that you're in shape. Well, I don't really have time to do the exercise, so I love to take a walk, plug in my earpiece, listen to good upbeat music like you talked about on one of our tips, and you know, just let go of all the distraction. You know, I mean, see how cheerful that is. You can't fake that smile that's on the screen right now. You just distract yourself with some healthy exercise. Okay, and of course I think that's our next tip.
Okay, and yeah, that picture is actually for our next tip, which says distract yourself. So Mono spoke about exercise. It's important that you exercise.
Very important.
Talking about distracting yourself, sometimes, well, let me read this first of all. If possible, do your best to distract yourself from overthinking. Remember, the first tip we talked about was mindfulness. So first of all, you must be conscious of the kind of things you let into your mind. Remember that you must guard your heart with all diligence, because out of of it flows the issues of life. So when you're able to guard the kind of thoughts that gets into your mind, it helps you also know when to distract yourself. Mono was sharing with us this morning that he was with the news editor and they were talking about all the unfortunate things that are happening in Nigeria, and he consciously distracted himself with something else. He decided to think of coming to the morning show and putting up a smile on your faces and mine as well, because if he's sad, I also might get affected. So you must distract yourself. Play with a pet or go for a walk. Yes, you can also read books, you can go for walks, you can visit friends and family. Keeping busy is an effective way to overcome depression. Yeah, you know, an idle man is
the devil's workshop. Of course. And our 8th tip talks about getting enough sleep. Very important. I mean, sometimes you can just be all into work and all of that, and you're not really having time to really get enough sleep. But
yes.
I mean, it's just as simple as it is. When you rest, you're relaxed, you're calm, your nerves feel better, and you can carry yourself. And that way, you're more. When you're so tired, sometimes you just have to push yourself to a particular limit. But when you have the time to rest, you want to ensure that you take a hold of that opportunity and really give yourself the rest that you need.
Course, and after getting enough sleep, you need to try cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy can be extremely useful in counteracting depression and is based on the principle that certain ways of thinking can trigger certain health problems such as depression. The counselor also helps you to understand, yes, it has of course to do with visiting a counselor or a therapist, and they help you to go through or help you with a certain thought pattern so that you get distracted from those things that might be weighing you down. So the aim is to change your ways of thinking to avoid these ideas, as well as help your thought pattern to be more realistic and helpful. If you know that you're finding it difficult to battle that depression, you should visit a therapist or a consultant and express yourself to them. They would help you out.
All right. And our final tip this morning talks about writing a journal in this part of the world.
Oh, I love to do that. No, really.
You love to do that?
I do.
But in this part of the world, we don't really...
No, I do. My dad does, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
A journal can work in two ways. You can use it to write down fears and worries. Sometimes having an outlet in this way can be soothing and can ease your mind. Another good way to use a journal is to write at least 5 things down every day that you are grateful for. And, it just helps to take your spirits to the heavens. And this forces us to think more positively and can help to remind us that things are never as bad as they were. You understand? A lot of people are like, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this. There are a lot of people who don't even have the opportunities. And when I think like that, it just helped me to be grateful for what I've got, because it could have been worse. It could be someone else, in a more bad situation. A lot of people just dumped in the hospital without care, without the money to do the necessary treatments that they need to do. But when you really write down the little things that you've got, that life has handed over you, you're just grateful, and that way the depression is gone and you're no longer sad.
Absolutely. And we'll be wrapping up by advising you that you should never give up in your fight against depression or sadness. Don't give up. It might seem difficult initially, but with time, practicing all these things over and over again, it will help you become a better person.
Of course. Right now, coming up to you, screen is the weather report for today. We'll be right back and we'll delve into the newspapers and check out the big stories. Stay with us.
Glad to have you back. That was the weather report. And now we're moving on to another segment of the show. Are you just joining in? It is the Bright Morning Show. This is where we start your day straight and on the right note. Okay, headlines now. Newspaper review is where we bring you headlines from all our national dailies. As many as we can pick this morning, of course, we'll be reviewing them. Okay, I'll be starting with the Punch newspaper. And the first headline reads, Benue killings. Otom says herdsmen must obtain permits as Buhari vows to punish culprits.
Okay, the first headline I'm reviewing from you says FIRS targets increased tax revenue from VADs in 2018. And we're looking at the Premium Times paper.
Still on the Punch, EFCC moves to seize Fresh Patience Jonathan's $8.4 million, 7.3 billion naira.
And in health matters, the health minister warns Nigerians of meningitis, explains inability to vaccinate all citizens. And I wonder what reason could really be responsible for most citizens to not be vaccinated. You know, there was this particular report we aired from AHTV that, you know,
Yes.
they were trying to penetrate into these local communities to be able to vaccinate them. But some of their parents were not really, you know, letting these
Yes.
health practitioners to really come into their homes. And really, if you're watching and you have that kind of mentality, I mean, this is a special warning. So you really have to open up your doors for this vaccination to come to you. And I would rather go for it than wait for it to come to me,
Yes,
honestly, so
that's
that you don't fall into one of the persons the health minister is saying they won't be able to get to, of course.
Okay, still moving away from vaccination, corruption, nepotism may lead to anarchy, ACF chair.
And this says Ekiti government bans Fayemi from holding public office.
Okay, yes, that story was actually on yesterday, and the assistant news editor was also laughing about the headline. Well, we'll check the details. Nigerians pushing towards war unknowingly, and this is coming in from Areg Beshola. I'm just hoping that that isn't true, because recently we've been hearing so many stories of war here, war there. You know, even the Benue State governor made a statement like that the issue that happened in the States is just a way of trying to say that Benue citizens are going to be in for war.
And you know, the present situation of things in the country is not really helping matters at all when you look at it critically. But I think Nigerians are survivors, because we've seen worse. Last year was crazy with all the IPOB issue. We keep talking about it on the show today. And I believe if God can help us deal with that, then definitely I think that we'll be able to scale through this. It's all about action. Once the people see the government in action, they won't have anything. Right now, we can't even find any person who has been arrested. And that was what the governor of Benue State was saying yesterday. And I think if people see that action, then these agitations will begin to reduce.
Well, speaking of arrest, I think yesterday I saw a headline of 59 persons have been arrested, but we'll still check. Remember, you can also check online for the details. We don't have the details here right now. Okay, Ekiti bars Fayemi, ex-finance commissioner, for holding public offices. And that was a headline that Mono brought, but Punch recoined it and puts it this way.
All right, this is an interview. What we told Buhari about Benue killings, Miyetti Allah, anti-grazing law. And this is coming from Otom.
And most people, even in Nigeria, aren't taking it very lightly with Trump after making the shithole comment, which leads us to this headline. Federal government summons U.S. envoy over Trump's shithole comments.
CBN injects $210 million into foreign exchange market.
Insufficient power, major constraints to business, CBN.
And our feature story here says, man sacks wife over her penchant for giving birth to babies like rabbit.
Well,
that's really funny. You want to check it out on the Premium Times.
Okay, still looking at our business. Since oil price rises above $70 as supply drops.
And this one says, Germany returns Nazi looted painting to legal owners.
And NNPC begins direct fuel supply to independent marketers.
Senate to compel AMCON to pay ARIC's 13 billion naira debt.
And sacked judge sues NJC, says his removal is invalid.
Okay, away from the Premium Times, looking at headlines coming from the Nigerian Pilot this morning. Lalong encourages families of fallen heroes.
Okay, and this is quite an interesting headline here, and of course we'll be bringing you the details of this headline on our variety segment. It says, police arrest woman for impersonating Aisha Buhari. I think for somebody to do such a thing, you must have a whole lot of guts in your system.
Okay, this one says Saraki seeks enhanced welfare for military and others in the light of Remembrance Day yesterday, which was the Nigerian Armed Forces Day. I mean, it's a time to go back and see what more they can do for our military men. Okay,
Buhari and the Republic of Impatient People.
Buhari to Benue leaders, I'll never protect criminals.
And this one says, well named, shame Bayelsa politicians arming criminals. And Dixon is saying that.
Okay, more stories still on Trump's shithole comment. But this says, engagement gone wrong meets the young man who rejected his girlfriend's proposal.
There's actually a video of it, and we'll be seeing it later on the show, so you want to see it. I felt so bad when I watched that video because
really, they captured that moment.
Yes, I think she had it planned.
And how did she put it? Would you marry me? Was that what she said?
She went on her knees and she brought out the ring.
God.
Don't worry, let me not say too much.
Let's not spill it out.
Who gets to that? Okay, still on the Punch newspaper, 7 die in Niger auto crash.
And a sad one, so unfortunate. Lagos gas explosion kills 12, injures many.
Okay, on our businesses, expect economic growth with inflation, SCB tells investors.
All right, moving on to the New Telegraph. These are some of the big stories. Headmen's killings, Buhari begs Benue leaders.
And moving on to the Vanguard newspaper, the first headline reads, Ugwai directs contractor back to Amuri Road site.
And yesterday on our Tips for Today's segment, we were talking about the fact that green tea is very important, in ensuring that you don't have a bad mouth. And there's a study here on the New Telegraph newspaper. You want to check it out. It says green tea, natural remedy for gum disease.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yes.
I would like to see that.
It's worth checking it out.
It is. Well, Emmanuel warns politicians against inciting masses, and I think that warning is timely because this is a time that our politicians will want to use youths, especially if the strike keeps coming and going. It just means that most of our youths will be idle and they might want to, incite them to do negative things. So this warning is timely.
Okay, Ara Onaka Kanfor, why Adams was selected among 25 Alaafin of Oyo. And another one here says, Ara Onaka Kanfor, culture meets glamour at Adams installation. We've been hearing a lot of stories on Ara Onaka Kanfor recently.
Yeah, we even had the details of that story on our bulletin yesterday. Okay, commendation service holds for late ex-Vice President Ekweme.
And this says, APC government has failed Nigerians. And this is coming from Irawo. Now, let's delve into politics a little bit. I know we're almost out of time. But don't you think it's too early for people to start saying APC has failed? I mean, looking at all the things they inherited from the previous administration.
Right now, I think APC's enemies would want to just put them in bad light. So I think I would say that is them that are trying to do that now. So whatever party that person might be speaking from, by the time his party comes out, people will say, oh, well, we have this option if APC hasn't been doing this well. But we can see that there has been a lot of issues that haven't really been resolved. So to an extent, they have also had their flaws. Okay, we're still bringing us headlines, and I'm on the Vanguard newspaper. This one says, Benue killings, you lied. Osinbanjo tells Governor Ortom.
All right, we still got more headlines on the farmers' headsmen clash. This one says, headsmen killings, Kalu quoted out of context, and this is coming from Aid. And just to quickly wrap this up, this says, headsmen attacks in Benue is ethnic cleansing genocide coming from Tor Tiv and El Rufai. Buhari has clear plans to end Heather's farmers' clashes. And that's a wrap coming from the New Telegraph.
Well, the Vanguard still has a whole lot of headlines, and this one says Cross River APC accuses Ayade of repackaging foreign rice, and Oyo receives 11 Libya returnees. Okay, there's still another headline on politics here, and it says Delta local government polls admits you lost, PDP tells APC candidates. We're bringing you headlines from our national dailies. We'll go on a short break. On our return, we'll wrap this up.
Welcome back from the break. We're still looking at some of the big stories from our national dailies. Be sure you to check out some of the details by picking up a copy from your local vendor, and also checking the stories online on some of the papers, our websites. And of course, to remember, you can follow us on social media. Our Facebook page is Nigeria Central Television, and of course Twitter, Instagram at NCT_official. Right now, I'll be looking at this headline coming from the Tribune, and it says LPPC strips SAN of title over legal misconduct.
Okay, and I'll be wrapping up headlines from this Vanguard newspaper. It says, towards 1 million, stop the violence, one Nigeria march.
Restrict your cattle to avoid clashes, Islamic cleric advises breeders.
And how soldiers tricked Bayelsa kidnapped kingpin to surrender 14 fighters, killed all.
You know, yesterday, I just have to mention this. When we're going back home, you know, a particular headsman was, you know, coming with his cattle, and then someone in the car was like, okay, driver, please, stop. We don't want them to come and kill us. And I'm like, hey, what's your problem?
Wow.
The driver had to wait for the cattle to cross the road. I'm like,
I think he took it too far.
It was too far, right?
I think he did.
Honestly, really funny. It was quite a funny scene. I was just laughing all through.
Okay, still bringing us headlines from the Vanguard newspaper. I'll be wrapping up this newspaper. It says, meet Adiola Emmanuel Ajala, the CEO of Joe's Innovative Services. Okay, I think it has to do with more like a profiling of this individual.
And this says, we have no land for cattle colony, Benue elders tell Buhari. Now, this is quite interesting. This is supposed to be the cure, or rather solution to this problem. So what's the way forward now?
So many people have been kicking against it. In fact, one person I know for sure is Fayose, Governor Fayose of Ekiti State. He is against it. I even had to just take it and include it in a variety segment. Like, he doesn't buy the idea at all. And I think most Nigerians do have an issue with that, because some people feel it's a business. Why should you be helping these business people? You know, why should we be helping them? Because it's a business. If people have poultries, okay, nobody says, okay, each stage there should be.
But they're killing people. How's that going to solve anything? Right now, it's not the people's lives. I mean, the lives of people, of Nigerians, is important and dear to us. If that's going to help, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be done.
But we also have that underlying question of, is that truly the problem? Because these killings have been on even before this Benue, before the bill of anti-grazing law was passed into law. You know, it has been a problem for a while now. So if these colonies are provided, would it truly be a solution? Is that all they really want? We don't know.
There's really a lot to look at when you talk about that. Okay, but moving on, this one says, accommodate your countrymen, Buhari begs Benue elders.
Okay, I'm moving on to the Nation newspaper now, and this headline reads, 6 die, many injured in Magodu Badagry gas explosion.
Talking about mental disorders, Nigeria ranks 30th most suicide-prone worldwide, yet healthcare systems keep failing our citizens.
Okay.
How true is that? 30th. That's an issue. Most suicide-prone worldwide.
Wow.
But it's encouraging anyway. I would be shocked.
30th.
The funny thing is that I'm very sure a lot of developed countries are going to rank up. Because I know Nigerians, despite the hardships, well, we're tough people. We like to, take the bull by the horns, like we're survivors, though it's bad, though it's hard. So I wouldn't say 30th is
30th.
really, really bad. What do you think?
I think, first of all, we should know how many countries there are. Then we should now know where we fall, if we're in between. All right, because I know there are a whole lot of countries, and 30 is not a very nice position for us. I think we should go lower, like we should get to 60th or something.
Okay, I'll definitely look into it, maybe during the break, and when we come back, just like give you an information about it in case you're probably so busy and you're interested in that. Okay, this one says new Ebola-related outbreak threatens Africa.
I also saw a headline yesterday. This is not part of what I'm reading, though. And it was saying something about Lassa fever affecting 2 people in Ebonyi State. I was like, this is. I thought we were past the whole Lassa fever drama. I hope it's not coming back. And
hopefully,
we pray
it
ends there. Okay. Speaking about the Benue killings, people were saying, okay, the president isn't saying anything about it. Is it because he's also a Fulani person? Well, this one says Buhari, killers of Benue farmers will be punished. So we finally had him say something.
Of course, and moving to the Daily Trust, Ume, my surgeon at Senate will be eventful.
And Fayemi kicks as Fayoshe bans him from public office.
And away from the Daily Trust, let's look at the Daily Times. This says group reveals how Otom started Benue crisis.
Okay, now I get to read the headline I was dreading, and it says, Doctor, nurse killed as Lassa fever returns.
And a sad one here says 4 die in Badagry gas explosion.
Oyo State welcomes 11 Libya returnees. This is a repeat of the headline on the Nation newspaper.
And more repetitive stories here, trying to look for something that we haven't taken. This says President Osibanjo orders honor fallen heroes amidst tight security.
And we have ACF leaders warning against anarchy and disintegration.
And on the state of the Naira, it says Naira drops at I&E FX window closes at 364 per dollars at parallel market.
And looking at our army that are doing a lot, though we appreciated them yesterday, but then this says army kills notorious militant leader.
And finally on the Sun, I'll just do like 2 headlines. APC governors meet on Congress's convention Wednesday.
Okay, and I'll take a few headlines from this day. It says, drumbeats of war in Ekiti PDP. And as we remember our fallen heroes, that sounds like an article on This Day newspaper. You can check it up. And one more from this day. It says, scores dead, many injured as gas explosions rock Lagos.
And this says 2019, I'll run for president if ex-Cross River governor. And wonder what that means. Well, you can find out more details on the Sun newspaper. This is where we'll be cutting it short on our newspaper review. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, it'll be time for us to look critically into some of the big stories this morning. Stay with us.
Welcome back. It is the Bright Morning Show on, and we're moving on to the newspaper, or rather, we're moving on to the variety segments. This is where we actually bring you details on issues or on stories that are quite big and trending in Nigeria. We just wrapped up the newspaper review, and now we'll be going straight to our first story.
Of course. And the first story here talks about killings in Benue, Taraba, as others fueled by harsh laws coming from Miyetti Allah. How harsh is the anti-grazing law?
Really?
Seriously, that will want someone to, want to take the life of another person. And really, when you think about that, you just wonder why all this excuse. really not an excuse, but he might probably not be saying it like as a form of justification or whatever, because, people, the way we see, react to things, differs.
And sorry to cut you there. There's this also, he's saying harsh laws now. Basically, I think what you're trying to do, sure, you just need your cattle. I think they just need your cattle to feed.
Of course.
And to have water. And to graze around for a little bit or to an extent. So if there's a place provided for them to be able to do this, I don't see why it should be an issue.
Honestly.
Basically, you just need food and water and a yard for them to walk around. If that is provided, why should it be harsh laws?
All right. Well, the Mietiala Cattle Breeders Association, MACBAN, disclosed recently that the killings and attacks experienced in several parts of the country from herdsmen were being fueled by the draconian laws put in place by some state governments to drive out Fulani herdsmen due to ethnic hatred. Now, will you say that the ethnic hatred is what is fueling, the drive for some of this state government to, put in that anti-grazing law?
Actually, right now, I think there are a lot of issues that we might not be seeing. I think it goes beyond that. There are so many other things
But it's part
involved.
of it, is that what you're saying?
I think, yes, it is also part of it to an extent.
Okay, well, more details. Consequently, Mietiala said it lost over 1,000 persons, including children, women, and the aged, and over 2 million cattle to ethnic militia put in place by these statesmen to actually kill herdsmen. This is really big. Now, speaking in Abuja, the General Secretary of MACBAN, Baba Usman, gave details of how its members were killed, saying, "We confirm the position of His Royal Highness, the Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamudi Sanusi, that in spite of the fact that 732 of our people were killed in Mambila and 82 women and children killed in Numan, nobody was arrested." Now, let's, for example, if at all some of these anti-grazing law are being fueled by maybe ethnic hatred, now that shouldn't lead to killings.
It shouldn't.
It doesn't really
Yes.
justify anything at the end of the day when you look at it critically. Yes, there may be signs of, ethnic hatred. It's just a normal thing in life. But to hate someone, to kill the person, the law has to take its place.
And you can't compare a human life to the cattle life. I think we've said this before, and we cannot overemphasize it. We're talking about cattle here, and we're talking about a human life. This person has a family. This
Yes.
person has people that they look up to him. Who knows? Maybe he's even the sole provider of the family. And you take out his life. How do you expect his people to survive? But when you talk about cattle, in fact, you're even there for the cattle. And by the way, when there's breeding, there will be more cattle. Honestly, it's just unfortunate.
Really, really unfortunate. Well, we'll have to move away from that story and look at another one that says, talks about, yesterday Bakare had lots of, tough words for the government, and the president's special advisor, Femi Adesina, really gave it back to him. So we'll quickly look into that details.
Of course, but that is one detail. I don't want to start and not finish.
Why?
So we will go on the Bright Morning Show, or the Bright Morning News. And when we return from the news, we will start it and we will finish it.
Okay, so that should keep you on your seat and keep you tuned to Nigeria Central Television. We'll be right back after our news bulletin at 8 o'clock. Stay with us and don't go nowhere.
It's business. It's about profit, challenges, demand and supply, risk involved in different business lines. All about profiling of entrepreneurs in the Nigerian business community and how they contribute to the development of the economy. Eco Profiles, showcasing the Nigerian business community.
This is E-Vibes, all-in-one entertainment, trending news, gossip, movie trailer, comedy, top 5 music videos you should know. E-Vibes, showing on this station. Don't miss it.
Welcome to National Discourse. Fuel scarcity has been a problem in Nigeria from time immemorial.
Current affairs,
We have to fix our refineries.
politics,